everybody. Welcome to another Thursday Night Live. It's me, Francis, here with all of you. Still in this house. I swear to God, I'm never going to sell this house. But it's back on the market. There's a lot going on with it. There's a lot of people interested. I keep going over to the new house, which is so much smaller and just like cozier. Like, I have like 4 rooms all in like one, large room there, like in this house. So the big rooms, living room, kitchen, dining room, and front room are all like one big area, kind of open area. So very excited about eventually getting there. Um, so this week, Nate and I on our regular show, we talked about what did we talk about? Shit, it's been a minute since I was there. So we talked about Iran, of course, and this was. So Nate and I record our episodes Monday, and that was right when the whole Bernie Warren thing really started to take off. But it was before the most recent debate where all the dumb shit has been happening. It's incredible to want, people keep thinking that the left is going to eat its own with Warren and Sanders, and it's really like Sanders just doesn't seem to give a fuck one way or the other, and he shouldn't. Honestly, he's being gaslit. So don't do that. Don't do that to an old man who doesn't give a fuck anymore. So we talked about that, and then I had a bonus episode with Isaiah. Fuck. I think Isaiah Jones. New York, running for New York 9th District. He's a veteran of Afghanistan. Spent a lot of 3 deployments as infantry. Got fucked up real bad a lot. So he and I had that was our bonus episode. It's free. It's a free episode. You can go out and get that on Patreon for absolutely free. I highly encourage everybody to go and listen to that. I really like talking to some of these veterans. Over the holidays, we released an episode with Anthony Clark, who's running in Chicago. Now this one, these young, activists, young guys who were in the military and got fucked up one way or the other, and then said, I don't want anybody else to have to deal with this. And then they all become socialists. And it's nice to see, like, it's good for me to see this, like, because when Nate and I started this whole project, this podcast, obviously he and I, were like, oh, we found each other, and we figured there's got to be other people out there who are like us, who are left-leaning, who are anti-war, who are, kind of anti-military because of our experiences in the military. And, trickle in, you get, ones and twos and, kind of a little underground running there. And then, we got the big, now we're getting, we're getting people who are running for Congress in various places who want to do something, like there's, for the last 20 15 20 25 years, you get just these entrenched Democrats who do nothing, who take corporate money, who lobby for corporate interests, and like, what's the point? What's the point of voting blue if it's just a Republican who is less angry about gays? That's really like a good chunk of the Democratic Party would be Reagan Republicans at this point. So that's a good, it's really great to get these guys on and to talk to them. And it's really great to do more of that. I'm hoping I've got a couple of other people that I want to reach out to, people who are left-leaning and veterans and maybe not running for anything, but, involved in the government. Because as much as I know that a lot of you would love to believe you're going to do some 1917 Bolshevik revolution, you're not. And look, most of y'all can't pick up a gun or don't own a gun, don't know what to do with a gun. How are you going to lead a revolution? Like, the whole reason the revolution worked in 1917 is because they got the army behind it. So stop trying to kick me out of your social circles. I'm like one of the few people you got on your side, right? No, we're not going to do that. We're not taking over the fucking government like that. That wouldn't look. I know a lot of people love to have that fantasy, but like we saw what happened when half the country tried to split from the other half. Like, and I mean, if people tried to just break up that's going to ignite something probably in my brain of, oh no, you fucking don't. I will in fact die for this piece of land to keep it together. not out of like love of country, but just like spite. I got a lot of that. So definitely would go to war for spite. Not a whole. I wouldn't go to war for a whole lot of things, but spite, absolutely, 100%. So coming up in the store, we've got the new stickers that I've talked about last week. Nothing new this week. I have some designs that are coming in that are going to go out to get made into patches, and then come back. I got 2 of them that I'm looking forward to doing. So big ups to those that are coming. What else? So the books that I'm reading right now. So if you haven't been paying too much attention to what the shift that the podcast, well, not the podcast, the shift that I'm doing, we're moving away from the zine. We're not going to be doing a printed zine anymore. What we are going to be doing is doing more printed things on the website. And we're hiring people. $50. Come write 500 to 700 words for us to put up on the website. We'll edit it and everything, and PayPal you directly, like immediately. So that's kind of what we're working on. But personally, I've been getting more and more into learning about propaganda, because it's interesting because I constantly see it, like on Twitter, on in your day-to-day life. The most recent one piece that I wrote about was that whole thing with the wombats, right? The wombats herding little critters into their burrows. Turns out that didn't happen. There's no herding or anything, and I got taken in by that too. That's one of those things that you read it and you want it to be true, so you just decide that it is. So I've been reading the book Propaganda by I just set it up. Okay. Edward Bernays. Now this is from 1928. So the historically the word propaganda did not really become a negative connotation until go figure, the Nazis fucked it up. So it really wasn't until that 1940s Goebbels the disinformation against the Jews in Nazi Germany that like that the word propaganda became bad, because propaganda in its core is just influencing people, right? So Bernays talks about it. Propaganda, the book explores the psychology behind manipulating masses and the ability to use symbolic action and propaganda to influence politics, affect social change, and lobby for gender and racial equality. So 1928 is when this guy's talking about it. And so this book is, about doing propaganda and how to do it properly. And in a way that does social influence. The problem is, though, of course, is that when you find a way that's like, oh, we can influence the course of the way that people think, inevitably somebody's going to say, cool, I'm going to do that, but in a way that benefits me and demonizes these other people, so that I can come out on top in some way or another. And so then you see that that cascading effect into propaganda, the word itself being a negative thing. Chomsky also talks about it in Manufacturing Consent, about newspapers, media and everything feeding into it. Just because the thing about propaganda is that, like, you want to believe it, right? Even if it's wrong, they're putting it in front of you, and you want to believe it. You want to believe that the people crossing the border are the reason why everything's fucked up in America, because things are fucked up in America, and it's hard to say, like, well, there's this intersection of racial and gender inequality, but there's also capitalism, and there's also these problems with the way that just the way that, like, our society functions by itself. It's just easier to say these other people did it, it's their fault. And so that's why propaganda is so easy to do these kind of manipulations for. So it's really interesting to be diving deeper into this, because it's easy to just say propaganda, it's the bad thing, but also propaganda, a form of positive propaganda that I can think of is in the 70s when the government did a media push and a media blitz to lower drunk driving. and talked about how drunk driving's bad, and putting doing signs and doing billboards and doing advertisements and doing studies and things like that. So to really push it out there, and of course it doesn't get rid of it completely, but like drunk driving was way worse in the '60s than it is now. There you just have worse instances of it. You can also thank the cigarette industry in America, like just the clamping down on the Camel, Philip Morris, and clamping down on their propaganda of look how cool this camel is when he smokes. I never really fucking understood that one, but some reason that worked on people. But you clamp down on that, but then also you put out your own, like, look, here are these studies and here are these things. And propaganda isn't always lying. It's an influence. It's by putting out information and saying, hey, did you know A, B, C, X, Y, and Z? The problem is when it comes to interpretation of data, right? So a negative way of doing that would be, when you get racist people who tell you that in black neighborhoods, there's more crime among black neighborhoods than there are white neighborhoods, which is in a lot of ways a fact. But of course, the correlation and the causation there of a racist person saying, and then anyway, that's why blacks are animals, versus also in a lot of these places there's not the chances, the opportunities, the capital, the finance, the things, the connections that people in whiter neighborhoods and richer neighborhoods have, right? So that's kind of propaganda is a give and take. It's not necessarily negative. Now, because of the way that language changes and moves and communication goes, look, we're just going to be kind of putting it out there as a negative, and I will probably refer to it as a negative on a regular basis as well, because that is how we think of propaganda now. Any kind of manipulation of a person or of a public figure or anything like that is considered propaganda and considered negative, even if there's positive outcomes from it. Nobody likes to be manipulated. Nobody wants to be told, here's what you should and shouldn't think. So that's kind of what I'm exploring. Like I said, I have in that vein, as I said about violence among different races. In that vein, I'm working on a piece about the Heritage Foundation, and then the other about the affluence of soldiers. Right? I think I talked about it last week as well on my live then, but. It's just like how there's just various effects. There's different, there's a data set, basically. There's this set of data and information that gets put out, and and they say, look, here's this data, and so here's the conclusions I'm going to draw from it. But this other person with different politics is going to come and say, here's this data, and I'm going to draw a different set of conclusions from it. And then there's going to be people who look at that data and say that data doesn't matter because this data over here says something that negates that data. So everybody takes and manipulates and works with data that is given to them and does their own thing with it. I don't want to say necessarily warps it, but we as humans are going to be more. It's going to be more of a thing for us to want to believe what makes us think that we're correct, rather than believe something that goes against our core beliefs. Like, I'm 36 years old. I try very hard to realize, like, I could be wrong. Just always like, yeah, I could not know what the fuck I'm talking about. I probably don't, but I probably do. So I don't know. So you always got to keep that open mind, and always just understand you're not immune to propaganda. Ever you're not. Because it's your brain. It's that fucking sack of meat inside of the bone cave and wrapped up in some skin. It's just really easy to manipulate, and people have figured out how to do it, and they do it all the time, constantly. It's really fucked up. So coming up the rest of this month, we have another bonus is going to be coming out. It's going to be a Q&A with we've already got a bunch of questions, but Curious Cat, you can always DM me, email us, all the different ways to contact us. You can do that to throw some more questions in on that. Also, we've got some other movies. I know Nate and I are supposed to watch Equilibrium. Brian from Street Fight said that he will watch the 2012 Battleship and do a recording with me of that. And then I just did a recording with Joe over the Lions Led by Donkeys about Millennium Challenge 2002. It's going to be a little bit of time before that comes out, because he's in the middle of a Winter War series right now, which I highly recommend going to listen to. Like, like I know that like we joke about, not joke, we're socialists, we're communists, whatever label you want to put onto it. And then the first thing people want to do is come at us like, "Ooh, well, the Soviets." Like, pump the brakes, man. The Soviets were absolute garbage, especially the Stalin years and beyond. So the Winter War is about when the Soviet Union got their asses handed to them by the Finns, and the incredibly lopsided. Like, it's funny to look. If you look at the World War II like death stats, I didn't say funny, but if you look at the World War II death statistics, right? 5 million for this country, 10 million for that country, and it's like 50 million for the Soviets. And you think like, wow, they must have really committed a lot of people, and really fought hard and done like the lion's share of the fighting. In a way, yes, but we also have to remember, one, they were in talks of joining the Axis at one point in time. And really it was just kind of it was one of those, is like, who's going to betray who first between Stalin and Hitler. And two, they just were kind of bad at fighting. I mean, they got their asses handed to them by the Finns. It is what it is. So you should be listening to Lions Led by Donkeys regardless, because it is like one of the few history podcasts where you actively listen to the hosts get drunk as they do it. You've got Joe, who does all of the research and reads the script and discusses that, and then you've got Nick, who basically just gets drunk and his color commentary going, "What the fuck?" Every once in a while. So it's good shit. Go listen to it. Other than that, I think we're good to go here. So thank you all for jumping on with us. Again, trying to get back into this groove. There's just so much more time that I want to dedicate to this podcast. And now that we're in the middle of really getting ready to sell this house, I just feel like once I move, we're gonna finally have some time. And I say that as if right now I don't have anything else going on. I could be doing lives every night, but then I have to come up with shit to talk about constantly to you guys. I can only really do that once a week with Nate, and then I have to let's watch a movie and talk about it. Let's do something like that for content. So, but anyway, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you later.